I hate this game. Hate it, hate it, hate it. Right. Okay, here we go. Right, let's do it. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the James Lawrence Allcott channel and my England versus Scotland preview. Not looking forward to this game, but I'm looking forward to chatting to you guys about England's performance so far, the Scotland performance so far, and the big one for me is actually the sort of starting lineups for both these teams, because obviously a lot of things have happened. But moving forward, how do you kind of sort those things out, and how many changes do you make, and how many changes will realistically Gareth Southgate or Steve Clarke make? That's what we're going to get into in this video. I haven't said this in a while live in a video, but if you're watching for the first time, welcome. Do a couple of things for me. Hit the like button right now if you're watching. Move that mouse, takes a second. And subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed to the channel up until now. That would be wonderful. And also, actually, I did a Dream Teams with Emmanuel Petit. And that video went out a couple of days ago. And I think it's got lost a little bit in the algorithm. So yeah, I'm really, really proud of that video. I just think it's really good. So go check that out if you haven't been able to check it out as of yet. So let's get into this game. The situation is that England need a point to get through, and they probably will. Don't know why I got these on. England need a point to get through. Scotland, it's one where really, some teams will get through with 3 points out of these groups because it's so ridiculous, but they need something from this game. And so I'm going to look at both the performances first of all, and I'm going to highlight something actually I thought was really, really cool actually on both of these teams before I then get into the situation with the lineups, and it's their kind of passing combinations. So I'm going to kick off with England first. Let me show you this. So I think we all were generally pretty happy with this, and super chats are there. Liam Ludlam, Calvin Phillips must start. We all discussed that. I thought he was brilliant. He was absolutely brilliant in the game. And you can see here this is kind of the average positions and also the passing combinations. You see the sort of weaknesses of Scotland and kind of the strengths of England as well. First of all, Trippier. Trippier was a big talking point. He had 84 touches. He had more passes than any other player, 66 for England. And the focus really was down this left-hand side. You can see there's a lot of passing from side to side. There was a little bit more balance than some teams that you will see. But first of all, Calvin Phillips being right up here, this is something that obviously we weren't expecting from him at all. And what's going to be interesting in this next game is looking at the strengths and the weaknesses that Croatia had, but also the strengths that Scotland have. What should England do? Because they seem quite flexible, both in the sort of depth of the squad and the formations that Southgate has put forward. But Phillips, for me, you can make 6 changes to this team if you wanted to, and we'll get into that in a second. But Phillips, for me, is one that you don't change. I think he was just that good that you need to kind of keep him in the team. But it does highlight how far forward he was. Also, this focus down the left-hand side and the fact that he really does trust Trippier with the ball. Sterling getting involved a lot of the time. But also, I think this was kind of down to the fact that that they wanted to kind of go down that Croatia. Well, sometimes you want those kind of pairings. And I thought the fact that, again, when you're talking about trust, the fact that Rice basically was a single pivot on his own, so it was kind of mixed opinions. I'd love to know in the chat what you thought about this. I thought Rice was great. I thought he kind of put out loads of fires, and that's what's going to be his role generally in this game, in this tournament. But a lot of people thought he didn't do enough with the ball. I think that's interesting and fair enough, and we'll see what he can do against a team that's probably going to have a much lower block and be a bit more defensive than the Croatia team. But I thought Rice had a really good game defensively. I thought he saw a lot, he covered a lot of ground, and for them to generally play a bit of a midfield too in terms of the screening, but that was great. Also, the other good thing with Phillips was, if you look at Phillips's heat map, which I think I might be able to do for you guys actually. Let's see if I can do it. I think I've got it here. Yeah. So with his heat map, he really helped out the fullback in his defensive work as well. But what that also suggests is that if he's going over to help him out, that means Declan Rice is kind of on his own here. Mason Mount drops in as well, and he's always very diligent. But it highlighted just how much Calvin Phillips did and how he was able to get across the pitch. And so he was brilliant. Both of those got to play for me. Next up, let's have a look at Scotland's passing combinations, because Scotland. So for Scotland, they didn't play that bad, but they will have come out of that game severely bruised, in my opinion, because the expectations were so high. It was an opportunity to score some points, like in a big way against the Czechs, and they knew they were going to have harder games after that. But again, if we look at the passing combinations for Scotland, the big thing here is, for me, is just how one-sided they are.
and how much of a problem in an attacking sense when you're trying to go and win a game O'Donnell is. Like the passes to him, he was barely passing the ball to Christie and working it forward, but barely passing it into the likes of McGinn to get them up the pitch as well. He generally was picking up the ball and then playing negatively. And then that kind of puts so much pressure on the other side. The focus on Robertson which is understandable. I get it. Like, he's the best player. But what happens is if you shut down that left-hand side for Scotland, then you're basically shutting down Scotland full stop. And Lyndon Dykes, who got a lot of heat for his role in the game, I think what people need to remember, and I know this because as a QPR fan, I've seen him play. His hold-up play is really good. It's really, really good. His finishing is not. It's not. That's why he's not playing in the Premier League right now. That's why he came to a championship side like QPR instead. So I think if you want to get the best out of Lyndon Dykes, a game against the Czech Republic where they were quite dominant, and if you look at the average positions, especially once you show the substitutes, this is really cool, by the way. All these players come forward. Look how far forward they were as a team. They really were kind of like knocking at the door. And so in a game against England where it will probably be a bit more suited to the kind of playing style that you've seen from Scotland, you might actually get a bit more positive elements of Lyndon Dykes than you would in this game. The one pass that he got the most was from Marshall. He didn't win enough of his headers. I think that's fair criticism, and he missed some big chances. So that's going to be a talking point as well. Does Dykes play in this game or not? Final thing actually on England as well is that we were talking about Harry Kane earlier in the week in the Fallout. I've got a new series called The Fallout, which we're kind of talking about questions that you put forward. And one was about Harry Kane's positioning. And the big thing with that, I would suggest, is that what's interesting is that there was no link between Mount and Kane. You can see there's no line there at all. So what highlights to me is that, I mean, overall, if you look at Harry Kane's stats for this game, it wasn't great. 1 shot, 26 touches. I'm not bothered about touches, but if you are going to drop deep, which is what he did, then you need to get involved. You need to be a part of it. Only 16 passes. His pass accuracy was 62.5% as well. So for him, again, that kind of highlights what is his role in this team. Is it just him to kind of get forward and get in the penalty box? I think that's what I'd like to see a little bit more. And I feel like with Mount, what's his role in the team? Is this going to disconnect between Kane and Mount that is gently a problem? It's not really a problem because Mount offers so much. But it's interesting. It's something to kind of keep an eye on. Like, are Mount and Kane going to be able to get the best out of each other? And if not, is Kane on his own a little bit? Like, how is he getting involved in the game, or should he get involved in the game? So, moving on. The other thing, actually, Foden only had 27 touches in this game. So, again, the focus was really down the left-hand side. So, if we look at the teams from these first two opening games, you can see the two lineups at the moment. And, of course, there needs to be some changes along the way. But where? Now, the big miss for Scotland, let's start off with Scotland. The big miss for Scotland was Kieran Tierney not being available. Liam Cooper, who's comfortable on that left-hand side, but, isn't Kieran Tierney. And again, when we're looking at how one-dimensional Scotland are going forward without someone like Kieran Tierney, it's a real loss for them. A real loss. Because when you've got Kieran Tierney playing, the difference is it really is night and day, because I think that's going to be the big strength for a team like Scotland, is that if you're going to defend deep and you're going to have to counter-attack, or sometimes you're not going to be able to kind of unlock them with neat passing. It's going to have to be third-man runners. And that's something that when they've played at their best, that's where you've seen McGinn play to his best, Christie take players out of the game and get close to Dykes. Armstrong can do a similar thing, Robertson, and then Tierney driving through the middle. So, in terms of changes and predicted lineups, I want to get into that now, because there are some big decisions to be made. And first of all, I thought Christie was very poor. I think with Dykes didn't suit that Czech game. He should have done more in that Czech game, but it didn't totally suit him. But when you're going to be penned in, which I feel like Scotland are going to be penned in a lot, you need neat players to get on the ball. Like looking at that Wales game yesterday, there were moments where they needed really tidy players. And that's what I would like to see. And I also think they need more options in terms of starting counter-attacks, starting attacking phases of play, because, as I've said, O'Donnell is not really good enough in an attacking sense whatsoever. So really all he offers is the ability to maybe positionally get high and wide, right? So what I would like to see, here's what I would like to see.
I thought McTominay was much better as a right-sided centre-back because he offered almost something going forward. I like Hendry. I think any criticism for him was really harsh after he had a shot, which is not, that's not doing anything wrong. But I would take Hendry out because I think the strength of the left-hand side of England is so much that I think you need that little bit more experience there. And I think you also need a bit more moving forward through the pitch. And I also think Scotland are quite strong in midfield. Now, this is the next big decision you have to make. If you take McTominay out, and I also thought McTominay the game passed him by a little bit, and I also felt like he didn't get the best out of McGinn in this in terms of having true freedom to kind of go wherever he wanted to. Armstrong had a good relationship with Robertson, but previously McGregor's had a great relationship with Robertson on that left-hand side as well. So it would be harsh to take out Armstrong, so I would leave him in for this game. But if you make wholesale changes on the system, I think it's really dangerous. But what I would like to see is someone getting a little bit closer to Dykes. Like I said, when Adams came on, and I think Che Adams will start, but I don't think it will be for Dykes. I think it will be for Christie. I would like to see that. Because then if you have to defend really deep, Adams has got the work rate to come in and get involved. Dykes works so much harder and is so much more mobile than anyone realises as well, because people just think he's just a big man. And you will have that work rate there to kind of sit in and have another player. But then in the midfield, you've got, for me, it would be a decision between three. And McGregor, I think, suits better playing on the left-hand side. So it's between him and Armstrong. I would stick with Armstrong on that one. And then it's that defensive midfield role. Now, if you want to go for experience, you play Fleck. You play Fleck to sit there, get on the ball, be an outlet, to be able to deal with a midfield two. Or it's going to be interesting how England's set up. We'll get to that in a second. But Fleck will be there to kind of get on the ball, but also allow McTominay to get the ball here. And often McTominay would get the ball and just drive. And it would be a way of kind of utilising O'Donnell without utilising O'Donnell. So I would like to see McTominay as a centre-back in this game. So it becomes between Fleck and Gilmour. Oh, that's not Gilmour, that's Fraser. And out of those two, Gilmour's the better player. Fleck's got more experience. So that's the decision you have to make, and how do you want to lean on this? What I would do is I would play Gilmour. And the reason I play Gilmour is not because it's the right decision, but it's because you're going to have Gilmour playing for this international team for a really long time. Really, really long time. And so I know it's a huge game for him to come into, but it's not a totally packed stadium. And I just think he's so talented that I think you kind of get him on the ball, and it allows McGinn to be that box-to-box and get forward, get alongside Dykes. And if you play Che Adams and Dykes, again, you'll have all these guys defending and then just those two. A bit like you saw with Sweden a little bit, but Che Adams can drop in. And also, Che Adams can come and be a second target man almost, coming and getting on the ball. Because as we saw, you had Dykes coming in and helping out, and then there was no one in the box. Dykes has been at his best when he's played with Charlie Austin in the Championship this season. And that's because he's got someone right next to him. So that's what I would like to see. And O'Donnell, I know there's a lot of talk about O'Donnell. The thing with O'Donnell is that if you take him out and you play Forrest, for example, that's not Forrest. Sorry, play Forrest. That's kind of a winger. I think you're going to get destroyed here. This game suits O'Donnell more because in terms of him being negative, that's not a problem. It's about survival. It's about being defensively strong. So I would stick with O'Donnell in this game. And he has been the right wing back for a long time here. So as mediocre as he is going forward, defensively, I think you've then got a bit more experience instead of Hendry and O'Donnell there, which I don't like as much. As much as Hendry wasn't too bad. I know O'Donnell was really, really poor in that first game, but this game isn't that game. They're going to be defending. Scotland are going to be defending for their lives. So those are my thoughts on that. Let's move on to England. Let me just get to, I think there was a couple of super chats, wasn't there? Nick tells Sterling seems to be the only player running in behind the line of defence with Kane dropping deep. I can't see Southgate not starting him in this game. We'll get to that. Thank you for your super chat, mate. Appreciate that. Jack Fawcett, where can you find average positions of teams? Think they'd be really useful for reports. Class as always, mates. SofaScore's good. And the thing that I just showed you there was actually on Sky. So yeah, both of those are good. But with SofaScore, it's on the app. Right, let's move on to England. Now, with England, I've got it written down. Here's the question. Let me know in the chat. I want to hear if you want to see 4-3-3 or 3-4-3. Tell me what you want to see in the chat right now. We've got 1,424 people watching, by the way. If you're enjoying these and you want me to do more of these lives, then please do consider hitting the like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so. So with England, there are so many options here. And so that's the question for me with Southgate is how many changes does he want to make? I think he would have made his plan months ago, and I think he'll probably stick to it. But what exactly will he do? Wrong one. There it is. So Trippier started as a left back. I think with O'Donnell and this left-hand side, and basically it's the wide areas where there's going to be a bit of chaos. The first thing that came into my head was if you stop Tierney and Robertson, if they were to play, you stop Scotland. They're not scoring, right? So here's the decision. If you're going to play 3-4-3, you might be able to straight up stop that, okay? So I'm going to show you both. So if they were to play 3-4-3, because there are so many options here. Because you could basically leave this as it is. You can leave it alone, play exactly the same team, and I don't really see a problem with that because you've got Sterling who's going to drive in here. You've got Mount who's going to kind of get in and stop these guys, but also sort of look to get involved a little bit. Playing against back three, and might also make those runs beyond like he has done. You saw from his average positions there. I know a lot of people talking about Sterling as the only person who's running beyond, but Mount was doing it at times as well. And Foden, in terms of a player who could both play out wide, but also who could kind of play in this area, that's quite an interesting proposition for England to utilise. But for me, here's what I've quite liked, and let's just explore it because there's so many changes that you could make. First of all, Trippier. Now I think Southgate completely trusts him, he likes him, and he may want to play him. And if he does want to play him, I could see him playing with a back three, so a 3-4-3, and I could see Shaw coming in, Mount coming out quite possibly, because this is a game I think we can go for. And then you play like this. Now, the reason why you would play like this is for a couple of reasons. The main one being that you stop kind of Robertson at source, right? So you would have Foden would have this pressing lane here. Sterling was doing the similar thing here to stop O'Donnell, but I don't think he'd even worry about it. I think he'd become more central. So that's why you wouldn't need Mount. And then Trippier could be on the right back. But then even if you do have a third runner in Tierney at times, because on a few occasions, Foden wasn't really tracking his man. You'd have Walker as that guy to kind of sort it out. And the great thing about Phillips and Rice, I think, is that the energy that they have as a two would lend to the idea that two can do the job of stopping the three, be it those runners, right? And of course, you've got three at the back as well to sort it out. And also, it still allows you to play, if they're playing two up top, you've got these two and you've got one spare as well, and you should be fine. It becomes a back five if you need it to be, or a back four at times if you need it to be as well. That's one option. I would like to see Reece James. And I would like to see Ben Chilwell if you're going to play 3-4-3. And the reason I say that is because they know, and I know Trippier can play that way, and I know Shaw can play that way. But that kind of Chelsea style of play, the 3-4-3, I think with Chilwell, you've got someone who really, really bombs on. Now, I know Shaw does it, and it's much of a muchness, and if Shaw plays, then that's great. But you've seen how well Chilwell gets forward and scores goals. He's more of a goal-scoring threat than Luke Shaw is, I would say. And so if you play him with Sterling here, and he's got him in terms of him and O'Donnell, then I think he gets to the byline and he offers a lot. Then you've got both Chelsea sort of fullbacks on either side, which is a great option. It might be another option then that you don't play Sterling, you play Mount, or even you look to stretch Scotland by not playing Foden. And God, how am I supposed to find Mount? There he is. And playing Mount. You could do that as well. There are so many options for England if you play 3-4-3. I just think this would be a really good shout. And it stops what you're afraid of, which is this left-hand side. I can't see them hurting you in that way when you've got three there and Walker's that sort of tucked-in right-sided centre-back. And then going forward, you've actually got more bodies going forward, generally, right? You could go back to the way that it was before, though, as well. You could continue with the back four. Again, I thought Walker was one of the poor points in the team in the last game. So I guess the other option is can you get Grealish involved? It seems as though Grealish is not going to be fit for this game, quite possibly, or at the very least they might not want to risk playing him. I was looking at this and I was thinking, I want him to, if you want it. There is. What you could do is this. Now bear with me again. So Kane's obviously going to start again. Let's just move it back a little bit. Chilwell, you know, or Luke Shaw. Let's not pick the bones of that. Trippier or Walker or James. Again, it's a similar thing, right? And then if you then had a midfield three, you could play Phillips, Rice, and you could play either Mount or Grealish in that role. I think Sterling, for his confidence and just for fairness almost, you might want to not drop him. Also, you know, those driving runs in behind, driving into these spaces, also willing to take on O'Donnell one-on-one. We've seen that with his battles with Wan-Bissaka this season. You know, he is not afraid of driving at those players, and I think they'll smell blood with O'Donnell. I think they will, and I think they'll go for that. So I think that's why you want to play Sterling as well. But you could always play Sterling on this right-hand side. That's the final thing. If you're trying to get in Mount and Grealish, you might want to do this. And if Tierney's touch and go, apparently. Tierney's touch and go. So if Tierney's touch and go, I think what you want to do is you want to stretch him. And you want to make him kind of be honest as a left-sided centre-back. And if you played Rashford there, and I don't really like Rashford on the right-hand side at all, to be honest, but he can make those diagonal runs. And if he makes those diagonal runs, that makes Tierney, a little bit nervous and worried about what's going in behind him. Rashford's confident as well, getting the ball to feet as well, and he kind of would focus on this area here as well. The final one you could do as well in that area is Sancho as well. You could do Sancho as well, and he would be brilliant there as well. This is how lucky we are, guys, as England fans. We are so lucky to have this like plethora of options. It's crazy, but I wouldn't be totally against the idea. If Sterling hadn't scored, I wouldn't have been against the idea of playing Rashford on one side and Grealish, if he's fit, of course. I can't find him again now. Sorry, guys. Grealish, I think there he is. And Grealish on this side. Again, for the reasons that one-on-one, they're going to defend quite deep, and he would be able to get in the box, maybe get some penalties. Also, he might be able to kind of work inside into this area, in between the lines, and hurt them that way as well. And also, if you played Rashford as well, making those diagonal runs, Sterling can of course, do the same thing. But if you had Rashford there stretching it that way, then you've got Grealish coming in with the ball, and then he'll be able to see those passes and play those passes. Kane can maybe work this channel, Rashford can work here. And again, almost like the opposite of what you saw for the Calvin Phillips, Raheem Sterling goal against Croatia. You might see a similar thing with Grealish. Grealish trained on his own today, so we'll find out. But yeah, I would, if Sterling hadn't have scored, I would have liked to have seen this. Either this or a 3. And that's what I mean. Like it's not like he's got to play this or he's got to go. It doesn't work like that. It really doesn't work like that. You know, if you take him out... Oh, sorry. Oh, no, he's removed Mount. Nightmare. Can you undo it? Oh, you can't. Heartbreak. So pretend that's Mount. So there. So it's between those two, I think. I think you play 3 at the back, or you play 4-3-3 and kind of keep that consistency. That's it for me. Any questions or super chats or anything like that, I'll read them out now. I think there's so many options for them, for both teams, and I'll give you my final score prediction at the end of it as well. Thank you so much for everyone who's popped in a super chat. It's really, really lovely of you. It's wonderful. Jack Richardson, 3-4-3 is probably the optimal formation for our squad. It allows Kane to focus on getting into the box, as you said previously. I think there's a lot of truth in that. I guess it's about numbers at times and how you want to get those numbers forward. And against maybe a low block, maybe you know, if you're playing 3-4-3, you're getting a lot of numbers there, but you need nice attacking fullbacks to do that. And I think that's why I would like to see Reece James in this game. I think he'll probably go with. Actually, this might be an interesting thing to talk about. It's like, what would Trippier do? What would Southgate do? I really think that Southgate might do this. I think he might play. How many have I got here at the moment? I don't want to do what I did before. So I have 3, 4. I think he wants to play Mount. I really wouldn't be surprised if he went really similar and played the 4. But I would like to see. I know he loves Mount so much. So how do you get him involved in this? That's the kind of problem. So you might have, and he'll want to play Sterling. I mean, that could be something that he might do. I wouldn't be surprised by that as well if he made the decision to stick with Sterling, Where's Sterling? To stick with Sterling, Kane, and then maybe take one out here. And he could give Mount a rest. He could do that as well. I think his focus will be on this side. And if you stop that, and then having enough big men. So it's if he wants that extra security and having a 3, or if he wants to be a little bit more gung-ho and play as a 4. Where are we? Jack McGrath. I think it's got to be James on the right. Man's built like a fridge and would have that whole left side in his pocket. Yeah, I love Reece James. You guys know how much I love Reece James. I just think it's a very Chelsea kind of set up, the 3. And I think that's why I like Chilwell actually as well, especially in a game where you can go at the opposition. That's because for both teams, it's how their left side works. And I think there's such an opportunity here to really get at Scotland. For Scotland, I think that's why you need Adams to play, to get someone alongside Dykes, to give yourself a route out of it. Because Dykes, my prediction is that Dykes will impress with his hold up in this game, because he'll be all alone up there. The question is, can they get the ball to him? That's again why I play McTominay here, because I think he's got better passing and be able to get the ball to him. Sancho is our best right winger, gets overlooked. I get what you're saying. And this could be a game for him as well, like totally. I think it's that runner in behind, and I think you've got to have one of them. But Sterling, I think, like I said, I think he's very complete, Sterling, in terms of what he offers. Both, it's just his finishing that lets him down, and so he's got himself a goal, so you can't not play him, I would say. Chilwell's a dud, says Sean Thomas. I think that's it. Who's our best DM? I think, look, that's what might happen again as well, is that, Rice kind of pops up. You play the 4 and you play the exact same way. I would be surprised if he plays the same way and play. I think there will be changes. I really do. Because I think Southgate's got so many options that he can be that pragmatic. He can go, we're going to play like this in the first game, we're going to play this in the second game, we're going to play this in the third game. And especially when it's going to plan, as much as that gives you an opportunity to stick with the same team, it also gives you the opportunity to completely change it as well, because you've gone, I'm telling you this will work. Join me. I'm telling you this will work. I think that's what he should be doing. I think, look, me taking Foden out feels a little bit harsh as well. But I think, again, you play Foden in this game, right? If you play Foden, there's no problem in that. I just think he might want to rotate the team as well. And, you could play Foden on this right-hand side as well. You could play Foden on this side as well. I think Foden, a bit like Grealish, will want to come and get involved. Whereas Sterling, I think, will just run at them. And I think if you're Southgate, you want someone to run at them a lot of the time, because they are going to have the ball and they are going to have a good shape. So you need people to commit other people one-on-one. And again, that's why I actually quite like the idea almost of Sterling on that side and Grealish on the left-hand side. I really wouldn't mind this as well. Somehow Sterling doesn't seem to play on the right-hand side anymore. I don't really understand why, but I would really love to see that as well. But I guess if you're going to play that way and you're going to look for him to be that runner, then maybe you want Rashford because he's a better finisher. But it's tough, isn't it? We've got so many great options. It's crazy. Reece Biddle-Jones, not trying to offend anyone, but this is Scotland's biggest game of the tournament. They're going to be riled up before the game. I'm worried about it. Do you know what I would say? I don't know if you're Reece, I don't know if you're Scottish or English or what. Sounds like a Welsh name. Do you know what? The psychology of this, right? Will Scotland rise or crumble to this occasion? I think that is my concern from the Scottish half of me. Scottish half of me thinks if England score the first goal, this could be really bad, really, really bad, because I think that they are hurting. They will be hurting the Scotland players. And going into that, if it was at Hampden Park, that's one thing. This game's not being played at Hampden Park. It's being played at Wembley in front of a few fans. And the English players, it's not the be-all and end-all for them. The Scotland players, there is added pressure after a defeat being put on them. That concerns me, really concerns me. Phillips justifying dropping James Ward-Prowse, can get forward more than expected and good from set pieces at Leeds. Should be utilised at international level. The set piece is an interesting one because Trippier was supposedly in because of the set pieces. But actually, yes, he took a free kick, but there are other players that could have done that. But the corners were taken by Mason Mount. So I don't think it's as much of a concern as you think. I think it's more a sort of trust thing with with Trippier and Southgate is that he likes him on the ball. He's a calming influence. You can give the ball to him and you know he's going to retain it. And he just is a sensible, smart player for them. And in that game against Croatia, that's what worked for them. Do you think Maguire will play? I think he needs to play in the next 2 games. He really does. He really does. I think what they'll do is I think they will save him for the next game. I think they will play him in the next game and see where he's at and see if he breaks down, because I think he's got to get some minutes in before a game against a Portugal or a Germany or whoever it might be. So I think he needs to play before he gets to the knockouts. Otherwise, you might be better off just sticking with someone like Tyrone Mings. I don't know. No doubt Maguire is the better player. And it's also going to come down to the system as well. That system in the Croatia game, is that the system going forward? I don't know. I think it will always, with Southgate, I think it's just going to be horses for courses. But once we get to the knockout stage where you're playing good team, good team, good team, I think that's when he will maybe settle on what he truly wants, both from a defensive side of it and from an offensive side of it. So there you have it, guys. I hope you've enjoyed it. I haven't done one of these for a while. If you have enjoyed it and you do want me to do more, please do subscribe to the channel. Please do hit the like button as well, because it really helps the videos, and there's so much content out at the moment during the Euros, so any little like does massively help. Like I said at the start of the video, go and check out the Dream Teams video I did with Emmanuel Petit. The guy's a nutcase and he's a legend, and he does the most incredible impersonation of Ray Parlour. Go and check it out. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. I'm delighted that this game is going to be over and then I can just go full steam ahead supporting both England and Scotland. Oh, my prediction. I think I've got a really bad feeling about this from the Scotland point of view. I think England will win this really comfortably. I think they will win it 3-0. But a draw would be nice. A draw makes England second, and then nice little easier run, maybe. So maybe that's the best for everyone. I'd like a 1-1 draw, because it basically puts England through and it gives Scotland a chance. But I think England will win 3-0. I really do. Let me know your predictions down below. Thanks for watching, guys. Appreciate it.